Ever wonder what it takes to make a monster? Are they created?
It's alive!
Or are they cultivated? Maybe you've created a monster yourself without realizing it. Let's shed some light on that idea by comparing Frankenstein's monster with the escaped convict Jean Valjean from Les Miserables. Of course, each of these characters has a creator, but not the same one. The monster's creator is the scientist Victor Frankenstein, and Valjean's creator is the same one that the rest of humanity shares, however you want to define that. I think their relationship with our creators gives us the first key as to why the paths of these two characters diverge. The 1931 classic film Frankenstein is the standard by which all Frankenstein movies are judged, but it actually deviates from Mary Shelley's book quite a bit, and it has a different take on the monster's initial trauma. At first, the creator, Dr. Frankenstein, is rather pleased with himself for bringing the creature to life.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
But when his lab assistant Fritz torments the creature with a fiery torch, Frankenstein misinterprets his fear as aggression and has him chained up. Fritz continues to torment the creature with fire and the creature kills him. And this is where things really start to go wrong. Frankenstein and his mentor, Dr. Waldman, assume that his aggression towards Fritz is an inherent part of his personality because he's been given an abnormal brain. You have to understand that this was at a time of peak popularity for pseudosciences like phrenology, which is the belief that personality traits are linked to the shape of a person's skull, and eugenics, a movement to improve the human species through selective breeding that has its roots in scientific racism, colonialism, ableism, and imperialism. And so it was credible to audiences of the time that criminal behavior was caused by an inherently criminal brain. And based on that, Frankenstein and Waldman decide that the creature must be destroyed.
What can we do? Kill it. It's our only chance. I will see that it is painlessly destroyed.
And here, so early in the creature's life, I don't really feel good about calling him a monster. We have his second victim. Of course, you could argue that both of these murders were cases of self-defense. And the creature escapes and begins his life as a recluse because all his interactions with humans have been so traumatic. In the book, on the other hand, Frankenstein's creature immediately suffers the devastating rejection of his creator, who's horrified by what he's created. This unfounded rejection of the creation by the Creator reminds me of the Christian doctrine of original sin, where humans are thought to bear the weight of Adam and Eve's transgressions. And I don't think that's a coincidence, because one of the first 3 books that the monster eventually reads is Milton's Paradise Lost, which retells the biblical story of mankind's fall from grace.
Paradise Lost.
Paradise Lost. All is not lost. The study of revenge.
Of man's first disobedience.
Now, left to his own devices, this creature also escapes, without having harmed anyone. But his every encounter with humans meets with a violent reaction that he cannot understand. So he learns to hide himself. He knows there's something about him that's different that causes this violent reaction in people, but he doesn't know what that something is. In contrast, we don't know anything about the circumstances of Jean Valjean's birth other than the fact that he was born into poverty. But when we first meet him, he's surrounded by a loving family, so we can assume that his parents were kind and loving to him as well. His trauma doesn't begin until he's arrested and imprisoned for 5 years for stealing a loaf of bread to feed his starving family. We don't know if he was a religious man, but if he was, he may well have felt abandoned by his God at that moment, in much the same way that Frankenstein's creature would have felt at being rejected by his creator. If he wasn't religious, it was society itself that let him down by first imposing hunger on him and then punishing him for it so cruelly. So at this point, both Frankenstein and Jean Valjean are seen by society as criminals, One is assumed to be a murderer, mostly based on his physical appearance, and the other is defined by the law as an irredeemable common thief. But who are they really, down deep inside? In Frankenstein 1931, we get an idea from this scene.
Would you like one of my flowers? See how mine floats?
That is really heartbreaking. He thought she would float like the flowers. Maybe he didn't understand the difference between a person and a flower. But, of course, the villagers thought that he intentionally drowned her. Why wouldn't they? In the book, though, he actually rescues a girl who'd fallen into the water and almost drowned, so he saved her life. But the villagers still misunderstand and attack him as a villain. And while Jean Valjean is in prison, he risks his own life on more than one occasion to rescue a fellow prisoner. So, both Frankenstein's creature and Jean Valjean start out as inherently good, and they both have a traumatic event that turns their life upside down. But they both also run across the benevolent person who, through his goodness, may have the ability to set things right again. For the creature, this benevolent person is the blind man who lives in the cottage in the forest with his grown children. As he witnesses the love between these family members, he sees a side of human nature that he had never witnessed before. He yearns to be a part of that, but he knows that if they were to see him, they would turn away in horror, just like all the other villagers had before, and just as he himself turned away when he saw his reflection in the water for the very first time. So he observes them from a distance and learns to speak and read and write. And he leaves firewood for them when nobody is looking. Jean Valjean is also judged by his appearance after his escape from prison.
Who's at the door?
A beggar, a monster.
But the bishop looks into his soul and welcomes him.
I can't pay for any of this.
And I would not take it if you did.
You're my brother.
No man who is created good by God can be made entirely bad by man.
Be that as it may, all his years in prison had turned Valjean into the hardened criminal that society proclaimed him to be.
Someday I'll kill you.
And in fact, this is how he repays the bishop's kindness.
Madame Magloire, where are the silver plates we use for guests?
Monseigneur, the silver it is gone. It has been stolen by that beggar.
Frankenstein's creature wants nothing from the blind man and his family other than company and acceptance. And after a year of observing them, he pins his hope on being able to win the blind man's favor if he can talk to him when the others are not there. By now, he knows that it's his appearance that causes people to be repelled by him. And one day, he gets his chance.
Nobody has ever been so kind to me before.
I'm glad you finally came in. A man shouldn't have to hide in the shadows.
But too soon, the family members come home and assume the worst.
Stop! Who are you?
Felix, what's wrong?
Keep away, you monster!
All his hopes of having any communion with other people are lost forever, and this scene really shows the depths of his despair. Things turn out very differently for Jean Valjean, who's picked up by the gendarmes after making off with the bishop's silver. He lies and tells them that the bishop gave him the silver. And of course they don't believe him, but the bishop does something extraordinary when they bring Valjean to him.
What a pleasant surprise. You have discovered, of course, that you forgot the candlesticks. Why didn't you take them with you?
And he sends Valjean into the world with this request.
Promise that you will employ the money from this silver in becoming an honest man. Go, my brother. For you no longer belong to evil. I bought your soul, and I give it to God.
And Valjean does just that. He turns his life around and uses the money to benefit the people of the village he settles in, and eventually becomes the mayor.
Where did he come from?
I don't know, but we're all grateful that he arrived. He has doubled the wages of the workers, and we're quite prosperous now.
But Frankenstein's creature doesn't do nearly so well. Where the bishop's act of kindness gave Valjean hope and courage, the creature's encounter with the blind man's family has left him utterly without hope. And there was no one to protect the creature the way that the bishop had protected Valjean. So this is the point where the creature decides that if he can't find acceptance among humans, then he will get his vengeance against them, starting with his creator, Victor Frankenstein. The creature causes the death of 2 members of Frankenstein's household. First, his little brother William.
As I killed him, I saw your face.
And then William's nursemaid, who's framed for his murder.
I wanted to make you suffer. So I condemned her for the murder that I committed.
But the creature is still angry with Frankenstein for creating him in such a hideous form that he's destined to live a life of fear, rejection, and loneliness. He doesn't find fulfillment in his vengeance, and so he hopes to persuade his creator to take pity on him and create a mate for him.
If you do not open your family to me, then you must make me one of my own.
Only one as deformed and monstrous as I will live with me, and you are going to create a woman for me.
There is something I want. A friend. Someone like me. So she won't hate me.
And here we have 2 alternate endings. In the 1935 movie Bride of Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein does create a mate for the creature with the help of an accomplice. He's so close to the happiness that he's dreamed of all his life.
Friend?
That's gotta hurt, man. You know, I often look back on that day and I wonder if I had just been a little more open-minded, a bit more receptive, then maybe his life would have turned out differently. Maybe it would have gone something like this.
Penny for your thoughts.
Yeah, you know, it might just not be too late. Hold on a minute. Frankie? Hi. Hey, I was wondering if you could come over tonight. There's something I want to talk to you about. Uh-huh. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye. Oh, well, that was quick. You know, Frankie, I just keep thinking back to that day. You know what day I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah, I can see. And I just feel so bad about it, the way I rejected you and everything. And, oh, Frankie, can you ever forgive me? Oh, you know, that means a lot to me. You know something? He is kind of cute, isn't he? Come here, big boy. I thought we could have an espresso. Oh, well. He seemed like such a nice guy. So kind, so forgiving. Because in the end, he does forgive Dr. Frankenstein.
Yes. Go. You live. Go.
That reminds me of how Jean Valjean, after decades of being pursued by Inspector Javert, finally has the opportunity to do away with him and free himself from his relentless pursuit. But instead...
Turn around. You're free. Be gone.
So, it would seem that the divergent paths of Frankenstein's creature and Jean Valjean eventually came full circle, and they were both able to let go of their past. But that's not how Mary Shelley wrote the story. Her creature does confront Frankenstein and tells him his life story.
The world has rejected me. I hoped my father would not.
You gave me life, but then you left me to die.
And Frankenstein does agree to make him a mate.
If it is possible to right this wrong, then I will do it.
I will comply with one condition. That you leave Europe and all other civilized places forever.
But then he has second thoughts.
You have made one mistake. Do not compound it by inflicting another curse upon mankind.
And he destroys the female corpse without giving it life.
Why? No! No! Oh my God, no, please!
He's convinced that making another creature could unleash a whole race of monsters upon the world.
And what about her? Who knows what she will want, what she will demand? Or, God forbid, bear children.
He still believes that the creature is inherently evil and doesn't seem to comprehend his own part in cultivating the conditions that led to his loneliness and resentment. And the only solution he can think of is to destroy it. Is he any better than his creation? Well, now that the creature has reached the point of no return, I do think we can start calling him a monster again, because he ramps up his revenge by taking out his rage on innocent people who are close to Frankenstein. He warns Frankenstein.
If you deny me my wedding night, I will be with you on yours.
Remember, sir, I will be at your wedding night.
And to prove that he's serious, he kills Frankenstein's best friend, Henry Clerval.
Henry! No!
And he does keep his promise on Victor Frankenstein's wedding night.
I keep my promises.
Now Frankenstein has nothing left to lose, and he begins to relentlessly hunt the creature across the globe, determined to keep going until he's destroyed it rather than make peace with it. But in the end, it's Victor Frankenstein who dies, and the monster mourns his loss and mourns what he has become.
Why do you weep?
He was my father.
Christ did not resort to vengeance when mankind sinned against him.
His father loved him, sir. My father despised me, but never as much as I despise myself.
To me, this story is more tragedy than horror. Think of it this way. An innocent babe is born into the world, then immediately rejected by his parent and abused by everyone he comes into contact with. He's never on the receiving end of love, but has so much love in his heart with no one who will receive it from him. He sees people being kind to others, even to animals, but there's no kindness for him. His first hope for friendship is taken away from him.
Get out of here! Get out of here!
And then his second and final hope is taken away.
Why? No!
Until in the end, he has nothing left, and he becomes a monster, living up to his father's expectations, just as we humans do. The hideousness of the creature's face symbolizes the deformation that happens in the human soul that is shown no love. So I ask you, who's the real monster in this story? Is it the creature, or is it Victor Frankenstein? For more on how Frankenstein has been portrayed in the movies, you might want to try one of these.